É um grande prazer recebê-los aqui hoje para uma apresentação de pesquisa que vai ser uma experiência primeira aqui no nosso pós-doutorado. Olha só, a Asli Cazorla Mila, que é a nossa pós-doutoranda, ela, no início da sua pesquisa, estava nos Emirados, depois agora ela está na Espanha, e a língua dela, ela é nascida na Turquia, e a língua dela é o inglês. Então, nós vamos fazer o seguinte, ela vai fazer uma apresentação com o PowerPoint todo em português, mas ela vai ter que falar inglês, porque senão ela não vai conseguir expressar claramente as suas ideias. De qualquer maneira, eu combinei com os orientadores são a Mônica Machado e o Leonardo Mataruna, que foi nosso pós-doutorando há muito tempo atrás e que conheceu a Asli nos Emirados, não foi? You met him at the Emirates, né? American Emirates University.
Yes.
E acho que ele ainda está lá. E aí foi toda essa orientação foi uma orientação tridimensional, em 3 espaços, assim, enfim, de fluxos de comunicação internacionais. Então, eu vou passar a palavra para... É um grande prazer, é a primeira vez que eu vejo a Asli, inclusive na tela, a gente se correspondia por e-mail, mas não nos vimos. Então, é um grande prazer recebê-la aqui, e eu vou passar a palavra inicialmente para a Mônica. O Leonardo também está com problemas de internet, lá nos Emirados, teve um evento qualquer climático, o que foi, Mônica, mesmo?
Ciclone.
Um ciclone, portanto, o ciclone... Se as nossas chuvas aqui já acabam com a nossa internet, vocês podem imaginar o que faz um ciclone. E ele deve estar chegando em breve, esperamos todos, mas a Mônica vai, então, apresentar um pouquinho o que é a pesquisa, e no final da apresentação, nós vamos começar as perguntas, que eu peço para vocês colocarem no chat. A Estela, como sempre, vai passar as perguntas para mim, e eu chamo as pessoas no final da apresentação para que a Asli não tenha que ser interrompida, não é? Porque você tem um PowerPoint, é melhor que você possa seguir na sequência, e depois a gente vai ter um tempo bom para ter conversas e esclarecimentos. E Mônica e Leonardo vão poder fazer parte desse segundo momento também. Tá? Então, eu vou só pedir para todo mundo fechar os microfones, porque, diante das dificuldades que todos temos com a internet, não só a Dalgimar, mas todos nós, tudo vai funcionar melhor se nós estivermos com o microfone fechado. Tá? Sobretudo por uma questão de ruídos, e também porque, às vezes, a internet funciona melhor assim, quando tem só um microfone aberto de cada vez. Combinado? Então, Mônica, você com a palavra.
Ok. Bom, prazer estar aqui de volta no PAC, né, no nosso Programa Avançado de Cultura Contemporânea. É um prazer muito grande compartilhar com o Léo Mataruna essa supervisão do trabalho da Asli. Tem sido um aprendizado, um fluxo de comunicação internacional muito rico, como a Ilana sugeriu. O projeto da Asli é um projeto que tem uma relação forte com o campo da comunicação, do marketing, da publicidade. Ela está trabalhando com marcas e a expressão das marcas no mundo digital. E eu venho de uma tradição, inclusive porque fiz pós-doutorado em Londres, na área de Digital Anthropology, né, de antropologia digital, trabalhado muito com essa perspectiva. A perspectiva da Asli era mais no campo da social media listening, e o que nós estamos tentando fazer, e assim ao longo do percurso dessa pesquisa, é um diálogo, né, entre esse campo da antropologia digital, e aí ela vai explicar um pouco o recorte da pesquisa, a motivação, como a gente repensou algumas questões para pensar uma triangulação de análise observando países diferentes, né, a partir da experiência dela, da nossa, enfim. Então, um pouco essa questão de como é possível juntar esses campos, né, dos saberes, e a gente está trabalhando na construção de um projeto bastante assim singular, né, exatamente por essa multiplicidade de referências. O Léo vem de um campo onde ele discute cultura e esporte, e aí a gente pensou na escolha também de observação de marcas esportivas, mas a Ashley vai falar aí mais sobre o projeto em seguida. Então, essas são breves palavras, depois a gente volta a discutir mais. Eu acho que agora a gente passa a palavra a Ashley. Ashley, it's your turn.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Leonardo managed to enter also.
Olá, Léo.
Peço... Olá, Ilana. Olá, amigos do PAC. Peço um pouco de desculpas, porque o sinal aqui hoje não está muito forte. Então, a gente está com um probleminha de conexão, mas vamos em frente. Então, eu não consegui escutar um pouco o que a Mônica, como a Mônica já apresentou, mas a gente vem trabalhando em conjunto, muito harmonicamente, né? E apenas dar só uma pincelada, né? Falar um pouco da questão da temática da Ashley, né? Tá conectada com o esporte, né? O esporte que tanto representa, né, as manifestações contemporâneas do ponto de vista não só da expressividade, mas também da comercialização, né, e que acabou por si sofrendo muito com o impacto da pandemia, né, teve que se reinventar. Então, do ponto de vista da indústria e da própria sociedade, né, que acabou buscando como uma válvula de escape tanto o consumo das artes, da religião, né, e do próprio esporte, né, se sentia um tanto que banida, né, pela própria condição da pandemia restringir as atividades relacionadas ao esporte, né? E do ponto de vista da Ashley, né, que ela tentou um pouco inicialmente entender como é que os stakeholders, né, os apoiadores do esporte do ponto de vista comercial, né, se comportaram e também tiveram que se reinventar durante a pandemia. Então, é um pouco por aí. E ao final da fala da Ashley, a gente pode estar tentando complementar com outros detalhes, assim que também as perguntas forem surgindo. Então, passo a palavra novamente à Ashley e digo que é um prazer fazer parte dessa família PAC. Tudo bem, Roche? Me desculpe por não haver lhe saudado. Um beijo grande.
So I think it's my turn, from what I understood. My colleagues, my supervisors explained actually very well. From what I understood, they gave maybe better explanation than what I'm about to give to you in the next 40 minutes or so. But I will try to be as brief as possible, but just apologies for the language barrier I have. I would love to do this in Portuguese, but unfortunately I can only speak Spanish. And that is just to get me by with my in-laws and my family here. So, but I prepare with the help of my supervisors the presentation in Portuguese. So I hope that you will enjoy it. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Okay. All right. So you all, I think, have received the poster with the name of the research. So I'm going to be talking about the digital communication strategies in a crisis and from a contemporary culture perspective. So we're going to see why all this fields come together. So it sounds maybe a little bit too broad, but I'm going to triangulate as much as I can. So yeah. So first of all, who am I? Hola. They already introduced me very well. So my name is Asli, and I'm originally from Turkey. My field actually is marketing, but my main concentration is digital marketing. I am a certified digital marketing professional. I have finished my PhD in Spain, here in Castellón, in Comunidad Valenciana. But I'm from Turkey originally. I born in a city called Izmir. Maybe you heard of it. It's a very beautiful city. Right now, I'm living in Valencia, where I met Dr. Leonardo is Dubai. So when I started this project, this research, actually, I was affiliated with American University in Emirates, but with the moving back to Spain, right now I am not affiliated with them anymore. So what I do in my research area usually, well, as I said, social media, digital marketing, but I also with you grow up in a team of research, and my main mentor is Leonardo. So thanks to him, I also entered in the area of sports marketing, which I thought I wouldn't, but it's an area that I'm enjoying a lot, and that's why actually you're gonna see why we chose the sports area also. Right now I'm doing a postgraduate internship thanks to this opportunity. Once again, I lived so far. I forgot to put maybe so far that is there, yeah. So far in 6 different countries, so I can call myself a world wanderer. So I think by the end of it, I fit to this program, just being here and there, living in different cultures. Maybe I don't fit perfectly by being, talking Portuguese, but I think by having all that, I fit well. So what are we going to talk today? So first, I want to explain why we chose this project, what is the justification behind, and the inspiration, because as researchers, we need to be inspired to do a research, otherwise it becomes so boring. I will talk briefly, very briefly, about the online crisis communication strategies. Then I will introduce the Miller's digital anthropology and social media, the connection between them. I'm going to talk briefly about our methodology and data collection so far. It's a work in progress. Recommendation for post-corona era, there's a question mark, because I don't know if we can talk about it, if there is any post-corona. I'm not sure yet. We're just living it day by day, and limitations and the future research. Then we will open the room for more your questions, and I would love to hear your perspectives to make sure the research is going to end perfectly. So firstly, justification and inspiration about this research. We know that COVID-19 became a true unknown for all the researchers, and all to be explored in every single field of study, but marketing and communication being one of them. We were actually, as marketeers, were one of the professions that suffered the most, but also glowed the most during this period of crisis. But we know that it's being the greatest challenge the world has faced since the World War II. The implication on any sector is still unpredictable. We are seeing, after 2 years living it, the effects. However, day by day, we are adapting to it. So unpredictable changes to our day-to-day lives and businesses everywhere, we are understandably worried about the impact that they will have on them, whether it's be a sports brand or it is be a grocery. So we're still passing through in different parts of the world from this. That's why it inspired me to research about this, and I'm sure majority of you are also researching in your respective fields about how the COVID or this crisis has affected. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to research about this. And any marketeer or anyone actually that who are in their profession, any marketeer, content strategist, social media worker, doesn't matter, that has developed a COVID campaign, did this for the first time. So what does this mean for us? This means that nobody else who are developing campaigns right now, making promotion, has been faced such crisis in their life. They have some crisis management strategies at hand, yes, but there was no previous data, no previous behavior or pattern to analyze. So because what we do in business, we check what happened as a researcher, we check what happened in the past, and we try to predict what might happen in the future, but no data available, nothing to analyze, any predictions and hopes, they were just the ones that remain. And therefore, I decided to analyze the communication that took, firstly, this was the first phase of the research, which is already completed, in the first 3 months of the COVID, and later during and post, which is a question mark, as I mentioned in the beginning, for me. How long I should take the research, I'm not sure. Maybe I have to renovate the research stuff for it. So, yeah, I'm just gonna go to the next one. Yeah, the research questions is so important because we need to know what we are trying to achieve here. So there are 2 big questions and many sub-questions that we are still debating in our day-to-day meetings. Is that the first one? Is there a correlation between the culture and social media engagement during a crisis, and does it affect the communication? This is the #1 question. And if yes, if the data tells us yes, how to propose a better framework for online communities that differ so much from each other. What do I mean by online communities? Let me explain for those who are not into marketing so much. So in marketing, the companies have their social media. So they have Facebook, they have Twitter, they have Instagram. These are owned media by them that they publish things, right? They write promotional material, content, etc. But then later on, we see that fans, consumers, clients, customers, whoever you want to call them, they also create a community between them. So the ones who communicate through digital media, social media, we call them online communities. So we have right now, with the rise of social media, we have a lot of online communities around the world. So I could be Adidas, but I have communities in Brazil, communities in Spain, communities in Turkey that are trying to understand and try to be part of my brand and my brand voice from all the parts of the world. So my job as a brand who is pretending to be global becomes twice, triple, quadruple harder. So therefore, we need to understand what these communities have in common. Do they have anything in common? Or if I'm a brand, how am I supposed to attract all of them with maybe one global post? Or should I do that or not? So that, like I said, the question opens up another question, but these are 2 big questions that we are trying to resolve in our research. And the objectives that we have are the following. So we want to synthesize, as I said, few frameworks. First, online crisis management theories. We have a lot. I just put few here. You're going to see in a bit. Miller, digital anthropology, thanks to Monica that introduced me to this concept. I'm loving it. Digital anthropology framework for digital communication. Later, we want to explore and identify if there is any patterns used by sport brands during their communications. And we're going to take 3 countries. You wouldn't be surprised why: Brazil, Turkey, and Spain. And I'm going to explain the reason behind why these 3 countries, not because we are from, but we have another reason for that. So the science also backs us up, not only because we love our places, but also there's a scientific reason. And in the end, we want to propose a framework for digital communication crisis. you may ask, but don't we have a framework already? A lot of companies are sharing their stuff in digital. Yes, we do, but we don't have anything that would help us during a crisis like this, because they have crisis communication methods. When let's say when a client writes, your brand is horrible, I don't like you anymore, or when they write such negative comments, they have a crisis communication, no problem. They will just send an apology, investigate the question, etc. But do we have, when we consider the COVID as a crisis that is going on and on and on and on, do we have anything in package? Probably not, because since, like I said, the marketeers haven't lived before this situation, they were not prepared for this as well. So, but the things that comes to our mind, yes, I'm talking the word crisis a lot, but what is crisis, or what can we say that can consist as a crisis? So we have these three main criteria to identify a communication as a crisis. The first, the problem must pose a threat to the company. So okay, so it has to be, not every comment that are written negative about you is considered crisis. You cannot just say, oh, Adidas, I don't love you anymore. This is not a crisis. So it has to pose a threat. So we need to look at the language. What is the language? How many people are sharing it, and etc. And later there must be an element of shock or surprise. So in this COVID situation, we lived the shock, because it was a shock for everybody. What happened was not expected. I know that maybe I'm talking this as something that already passed, but it's not. That's why we need to understand, was it a shock? Was it a surprise? It was definitely a shock that has affected many brands so far. And the issue should force the business to make a fast, very important fast, hopefully effective decision, which in many cases, if you just write social media pitfalls, digital marketing cases that went wrong, you will see that many companies, when they are in trouble, which means that they're either in surprise or shock, when they're in crisis, they tend to communicate the wrong message. Just a simple example would be, I think about 2-3 years ago in the United Airlines, when the passenger was dragged from the plane itself, everybody was seeing this, and he was dragged because they sold him an extra ticket and so on. So what would be the logical thing? That the United Airlines CEO would go and make an apology for what happened. But unfortunately, his communication was that bad, that everybody thought that he was actually backing up the company or what he did. So as you can see, then the shares went down, everybody started not to travel with United Airlines. So as you can see, just one communication that came from the mouth of the CEO, whether he wrote it or not, we don't know, it became a huge loss for the company. That's why being fast is important, but being effective is very important as well. So we have some principle or key pillars, as we say, while we're communicating online during crises like this. Like I said, being early, being timely, so important. You can be the first one and respond well, or you can be just one of the copycats that came later and do the same. And this is what happened, unfortunately, during COVID. A lot of companies just copy-pasted each other's campaigns, that the consumers were exhausted seeing all over the same content. Being honest is so important. You have to be open to conversation. During a crisis time, people are sad, upset, angry, all of these emotions emerge. So you have to be able to open the conversation. One thing we say in digital marketing is that you cannot delete any comment. This is the mistake that you are going to do in your life. If you delete that, means that you are telling to your client, you must shut your mouth. This is what you're saying exactly, because the only way that this client communicated to you was through social media, and you just took his or her comment and deleted. So that's why many companies make that mistake. They are not open to any conversation, which is which is wrong. And they need to be also open to maintain credibility, and not just writing written vows, let's say it, but they also own what they did or what is going on in the world. Being empathetic is so important, because like I said, people are fragile during the crisis, so you have to be empathetic, and that's what we are seeing during COVID-19 communication. Many companies actually are ignoring the fact that some countries are still suffering from COVID. So what's happening is that they want to do a global campaign everywhere, but that doesn't work. If you're a global brand, you have to localize, especially during crisis. And you have to understand the anxiety and be transparent to your clients. So there are key also things we can do when the crisis avert. So not that difficult. As you can see in this picture, there is only four main things that we say: clarity, communication with clarity, with speed, and you need to ensure that the people are listening to you and they're understanding that the message that you are putting out there. This is one of the most important ones, because you think that what you write as a press release might be okay, but at the time of crisis, it might sound so cold or so distant to the people that are watching you. So that's why we need to be very careful with our communication. And the problem is with so much misinformation, right? We suffered this during COVID. Companies and leaders of the companies need to be reliable, and again, I'm going to say this again, credible in sharing information and answering the questions. Because at the time of crisis, people are looking to you like this, like that, like, okay, what do we do now? How do we solve this? What is the next? So you as a brand, you have a responsibility, because whatever you share is going to reach to maybe millions. So that's why some very sensitive topics, let's put it in this way, during the COVID-19 became even much bigger because of how people felt during crisis. But we know right now, look at here, I am at other part of the world, well, what time is it? 10:30 p.m. here, and I'm talking to you. So that's why now we're going to go on to the digital side of it, because thanks to digital communication, thanks to the online technologies, we can actually, I'm not going to say turn this to an opportunity, but we can try to make the best out of it. And one effective tool, as you can see from 2007 itself, and even more because the websites were developed way earlier, but we know that the research found out that having a crisis website during the crisis is a best practice. So many companies, what they do when they see a crisis, they immediately start to create things from scratch because they don't have anything at hand. But this is wrong. So if you already have a booklet on what to do, like an emergency book, then you're going to be fine. You're going to be the fast one and so on. So what happened is that many companies right now, after COVID happened, they start to work on this. They say, what if the next time something like this hits globally, and how are we going to respond? And now they understood that they need to have a backup. Let's say, whether it's be a different website, whether it's be different content. Now they are doing this, but before, like I said, they didn't have it. That's why many of the communication look so much alike. We also stay home, I'm going to show you a few examples. And we all saw that nobody was original. Maybe the first one who did it, yes, but later on, everybody was just like, okay, we are out of words. What are we going to say now? Right now, it seems like it's over, and they're not even mentioning it, which is insensitive at one stage. So what this crisis site should do, this crisis site should be designed prior to the crisis. Like I said, if you do it during, you are late. And what you're going to do is going to sound like the others. And being original, being authentic is the key. So this requires that you have a team, a crisis team that anticipate this type of things that your organization or your brand can face, and maybe the types of different websites, different content that you should be sharing during that time. If we go and ask the companies how many of them would have something like this, we would reach to very few number, because they would only do once they have a crisis. Another example I could give you is from Johnson & Johnson. You know that during, I think it was 5 to 10 years back, there was a crisis in their company that the powder which were used in the babies, you know, everybody was with talco, I think, the powder that they use, there were cases against Johnson & Johnson that they say it causes cancer. So they were, of course, very panicked about this because they live from baby products a lot. So what they did, they created a website, and it's still active today, Twitter, everything, that no matter whichever mother that writes to them, immediately they respond. And they constructed the whole research about how this does not actually lead to cancer. So you can go to the website, read all the resources, talk to the experts, and so on. And this is an example of, but the problem is that they didn't have anything like this when the things happen. They did it after that, but did they maintain it and update it currently? Yes, they do. But this is what the companies need to do right now, that they need to have a backup plan before the things happen, because we know that these things will happen eventually again. So now I'm going to take you, as I said, I don't want to bore you with this. It's a very theoretical part. So, but I'm just going to, I need to give at least a base from why we are connecting all of these theories together. What is the connection between them? The first theory that we take as a base is the online crisis management theories. There are actually 3 to 4 that we are going to include in the main at the end of the project, but I'm going to mention here only 2 of them. So the first thing that we need to understand is the theory of situational crisis communication. So the issue is that what does this theory say? It says a very important thing. Protect the stakeholders. So we're talking about everyone who is affected by the company by providing instructing information for physical coping, which sometimes we forget that it can have physical effects as well, and adjusting information for psychological coping. So we need to see how it affects the people, the crisis, the situation, physically and psychologically, and how we can orient them in a better way. And this is happening during the COVID. After they mend their reputation through denying, diminishing, they need to then rebuild or reinforce the strategies, communication strategies that reflect varying levels of accommodation. So we cannot just say one size fits all during a crisis. And this is where the companies got it wrong, because they want to make sure that, oh, I got the magic formula, that's it. Now I'm going to make this press release and everybody will be happy. Now I'm going to create this poster and everybody will understand how empathetic I am. That is not working, especially at this age of content. We need to create things that every part of the world, somebody from Brazil would feel, and somebody from Turkey would feel as well. And that requires a lot of work. That's why cultural sensitivity comes into practice here. So the second one that I want to mention about the online crisis is online crisis management communication theory. So what this theory consists, actually it consists of 2. One is social mediated crisis and network crisis. I'm not going to go into detail of them because they are quite large in theory, but these 2 have something in common, is that they attempt to comprehensively incorporate social media, which what we are doing in our research, that potentially may provide image making, complexity understanding, and the resilience generating insights. So what I said is that people are very sensitive during the crisis, and especially if it's something that from their family is suffering from. So if we are talking about COVID, unfortunately, I'm sure that all of us lost some people that they dearly loved. So during such crisis, you don't want to look like a joker as a brand. So you don't want to go and say, hey, you know, today we have this event. Would you like to join? Maybe not, because maybe somebody who's reading this, who is still suffering from COVID, is going to read that content and is going to click the button of unfollow or leave, or it is not going to purchase anything from you again. So that's why being sensitive, what's going on around us culturally is so important. So what were, okay, not they did, I'm talking like the companies did everything wrong. No, they didn't do everything wrong. They did something right. Like what? So they need to have transparent and clear messages, which they did. I mean, majority of them were clear in what they wanted to say, which are the things that are here, as you can see. Stay home, stay safe. So they were pretty clear about it. They supported local businesses and communities. I'm sure that we can give examples from each of our communities, but there were some worldwide great things done by companies like Louis Vuitton. For example, they sue a lot of masks, but they did not tell masks and also gels. They didn't tell anyone about it until they reached to the French government, and they say later on, yes, we have the French government. So this is courage, because they didn't use the help as a marketing material, which is so good. It shows solidarity. So they just produced when French government asked them to do, and they just kept it in safe. Whereas there was another company from Britain, I forgot the name, but I think it's a drink company. They just, the moment that they start to help, they posted, we are doing this now, we are helping, we're helping. That doesn't show that you are actually helping for just help. You just want to use this as a marketing material. So therefore, people understood who is the true helper and who's not. And a company like Louis Vuitton, you wouldn't think, you would think, they are luxury, and they just, you know, they shut down the production. Many luxury companies shut down the production during COVID, but they say we're going to help, and they just didn't brag about it. And one thing that the other brands did well is that they focus on the brand awareness rather than product push content. What do I mean by this? Is that, for example, Ford, they put a sale, right? They say, now we have a sale in our cars. That is not people are expecting when they're suffering from economic crisis or a crisis of health. They want to hear better things, or maybe just saying that, don't worry, this time will pass. So those who push their products with the sale were actually not perceived well by the customers. So the pitfalls, so error, red error, I want to put this in big puntos if I can, communicating the same message without giving any solutions, particular solutions. So everybody says, stay home, stay safe. Yeah, we know, we stayed home, we stay safe, that's it. But what are you giving to us? So another example was from Mercedes-Benz, again, luxury company, but look at what they did. They were giving every day some coloring of Mercedes cars, like coloring book for kids, because people stay at home with their kids. So they needed to have something to keep busy the kids. So they say, instead of promoting ourselves, we're just going to give you coloring of Mercedes cars, and you can just pass it with your kids. So this shows that they actually give a solution in the time of crisis. What they did wrong also, other companies, they overshare the aid, like I mentioned, rather is producing a mask or any other needed good, and they focus on product sales. So these are the common pitfalls or errors that we saw in the companies. So I have a statistics here that actually gives us a picture during the pandemic. So this is pretty early when we were all at home. February 5th to March 16. Look at the statistics. Look at how it risen. The total interactions for Facebook and Instagram during this time. So maybe people that were not even having an account has an account. People like your parents or our grandparents that didn't know what was Facebook was logging into Facebook because they were like, what am I supposed to do right now at home? So the communication rise to millions and billions during this crisis. And I wondered, maybe after the question and answer, what have you felt when Facebook WhatsApp and Instagram went 6 hours, more than 6 maybe, off. How was the feeling? That's something I would like to discuss with all of you. So, and we need to think about the business side of it. How much the company spent during the last 2 years in the global ads? A lot. And this is quite recent, so the statistics till January to 2021. But as you could see in the peak times, like when the WHO classified COVID as a pandemic and so on, we could see that up and down during the global ad spend. So this is overall in the world. So we cannot say that this is for one company, but in every peak event, we could see that the ad spends are actually becoming, because this is where people go online. This is where people search for information. So the companies were taking advantage of that time to advertise. But what we saw as a surprise, we have a new player in the game. We know Gen Z, Gen Y, and I put here an explanation because I know that it can be confusing sometimes which generation belongs to what. So here are the years for that. 65 to 80, so you can classify yourself. Are you X, are you Y, are you Generation Z? So I'm sure that there is a mixture of everyone here. So what we knew earlier, okay, Gen Z is all about social media, Gen Y also, but we have a newcomer, Gen X. So what happened is that the people who actually didn't want to be watching Netflix or are searching Facebook, sharing Apple Music, Spotify, etc., they are now in the game because they saw, well, I am at home and this is the only way that I can communicate or feel something during this crisis, right? So that's why the companies saw a newcomer, and majority of the campaigns started to turn to Gen X because they say, well, we know that Gen Y and Gen Z are already there. Let us see how the Gen X will react, right? So this is a new paradigm that happened. And another interesting thing for us is so important, the sentiment. I like to do qualitative analysis rather than quantitative analysis because this is what actually in marketing we go into two different gammas. Many of my colleagues, we were debating that they love quantitative a lot because it gives them the numbers, you know, all these statistics that they love. But I was talking that, no, we need to understand what the people are saying, how they are feeling, and what is the sentiment behind. So that's why we need to understand during the crisis, after the crisis, and before the crisis, how people felt. And you'd be surprised to see during that time, people were all over the place. They were pressing the love button, haha button, wow button, sorry, hanger, like it was moving all the time because we did not know how to feel. And the brands were communicating everything. So we were like, should we love? Should we like? Should we not love? We were all confused, all of us. So that's why you could see that it was mostly confusing, many emotions here and there that occurred. I'm sure that I was angry, to be honest, as a marketeer to see let's say bad campaigns, because I cannot look at things just from a client perspective, but I also look at the person who can produce content, and to see all the things same and some insensitive content made me quite upset. Now let's go to the other side of the triangle, right? So we will talk about the Miller's digital anthropology. So for those who are interested in digital anthropology, I know that you know what it means, but let us define it as Miller defines it. So he says as the following, as for digital anthropology: the consequences of the rise of digital technologies for particular populations, the use of these technologies within anthropological methodology, or the study of specific digital technologies. Digital anthropology, therefore, has to contend with the way culture, this is where it comes very well, culture itself has grown in scale and form, including new dreams and new nightmares about who we are becoming and who or what should be regarded as modern or traditional. I love it because everything that I want to talk is in these sentences. And I didn't know until Monica introduced me to him, because everything that we are facing right now is in this schema. Are we modern or traditional? Social media or not? Other? Which media to use? What to share? Which culture? So it actually encompasses all the questions that we say in the beginning. And sometimes, actually, me myself, I sometimes was thinking, okay, what if we confuse between ethnography and anthropology? Because they could be confused here and there, but there is a difference. The difference is following. Ethnography consists of researching and describing a bounded space and time. So where exit from the field side meant the end of the anthropology's relationship with the informal. So we could consider it like the beginning, and later on more detail comes the anthropology. With the rise of social media, the people anthropologists work amongst expect to retain those relationships over distance and subsequent to the completion of ethnography, which is consequently harder to delineate. So they are very much related, but they follow each other in a way, right? And between digital anthropology and digital ethnography, there is a small difference as well. Digital anthropology focuses on the nexus between humanity and the digital technology, whereas digital ethnography provides a powerful way to discover the latent human anxieties and desires that the brands should address. So very similar but different at pace. And what are we going to do? We have to listen. How are we going to listen? We are going to listen them through the social media. I know that some of us don't like social media, and you have every right to not to like. But for a marketeer or for an anthropologist or for any profession that deals with humans, it's one of the amazing ways to understand how the people are talking to each other, what they are saying about you, about your brand, and so on. So what do we say when we say social listening? What do we mean by that? We have tools for that. I'm not going to go into that, but it's the proactive process of monitoring what is being said about a brand on the internet, and particularly, as I mentioned, in the social media and online communities. It often involves a software, because you can imagine if you are Adidas, Nike, Reebok, Puma, big brands, you cannot just sit and write what everyone says. You use many analytical tools that we have to actually extract the people's sentiment, people's feelings. And a little bit on the methodology part, we know that, as I said, I like to do qualitative, and my colleagues as well. So because we need to understand what the content has been shared, what were the content, and how the communities actually react to that content. So we decided to use the qualitative visual content analysis as the research methodology. So I'm going to explain why in a bit, because it's used to in studies that characterized by emotions, which we want to examine, feelings, which we want to examine, perceptions, opinions, marked by the proliferation of technology, namely by the internet. So that's why this methodology actually fits us the best. And who uses and what are the benefits of using? Because you may ask, why particularly qualitative visual content? Why you didn't just say it's a qualitative methodology? Because we need to understand the researchers that use content analysis to find out about the purposes, messages, and the effects of communication content. So therefore, we need to understand how we can interpret the messages behind, how the audience is talking, and how to analyze the text and the content is shared by companies and the reactions of the people. And the content analysis can be also used to quantify. So if you are quantitative, you can also go and say, you know what, I'm just going to take this text, put it into the, R or Python, whatever you want to use. And you can also do an analysis of quantitative using this if you want. But what we want to see is how people reacted to the messages itself. It also gives us two main advantages, because here we talk about unobstructed data collection, so which means that you can analyze communication and social interaction without the direct involvement of the participants. So because I cannot just knock on the door of companies and say, hey, I want to observe what's happening on your social media. So I need to be able to have some ways to interfere in their content, right? So therefore, it allows us to just analyze this better, and it's transparent and you can replicate. If it's done well, content analysis actually can be done, replicated by other researchers, and it gives high reliability. So we want to make sure that our research doesn't stop when it's published, that it can be also replicated, it can be also gone to more areas. And now, let's come to what we collected so far and why we collected this data. I'm just going to explain a little bit. Like I said, we chosen sport, and I'm going to come in a bit why we chosen sport. 4 main brands that today, but this can change because, like I say, these 4 main brands which we've chosen are the ones that are pioneer in sports: Adidas, Nike, Puma, and Reebok. Maybe you may find Reebok a little bit weaker when you compare to these 3, but again, you will see in a bit how Reebok actually engages the people in social media. So these 4 are going to be the main data collection for us. And now the question of why sports industry, why didn't you go for another industry and you are going for a sports industry? Well, because as my colleague Leonardo explained, it's one of the industries actually that got affected by COVID the most. So, and it's one of the biggest industries. We don't talk about it a lot because we are fans and we watch the sport. But when you go to the backside of it, you see the billions and dollars, whatever, trillions that are being thrown into the sports industry. So we're talking about an industry that does not, that you cannot fail. We're talking about an industry that instead of talking in customers or clients' language, we talk about fans or communities. And this is what's important for us. Being a part of a community, you can only see maybe in sports, because in which, let's think about it. I own this Star Wars, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I don't belong to a Star Wars community, but I follow a sports team, football team, and I am inside that community, because that feeling you can only get by this, at least in my opinion. Maybe you may think otherwise. So let me, I'm almost in the end. Let me tell you a little bit about the recent things, because I told you about the past. Now, let me tell you a few recent analytics. So for the data collection, I use Social Bakers. I'm sure that you may have heard of it. Unfortunately, it's a platform that you can actually take a lot of data, but if you want very, very detailed data, it requires the premium. But so far, so good. Social network that I chose to compare this company's content is Instagram. Why Instagram and not Facebook? Because we want to do visual analysis as well. So Instagram is the best place for it. And like I said, the companies are the following. So let us first see what they have done previously. I'm just going to show 2 examples and move on to the recent one. This is what Nike did when we were in pandemic. They say, if you ever dream of playing for millions around the world, now is your chance. Play inside, play for the world. So what type of sentiment we feel here? Safety, stay home, motivating for the greater good, and so on. So many companies, I'm sure that you've seen 1 or 2 examples of this during the crisis peak. And Puma, what they did, they were actually doing a lot of lives in their social media to say that, okay, stay home, but be with the community also, right? And stay home and do the exercises still, and so on. This is what they did back then. And before I go to the recent analytics, I mentioned that we chose these three, and there is a reason for it. I'm sure that you are all aware of Hofstede. I love him. He is like the father of culture to me. And because I study business, and for me, when this theorem, when I first read it back in the bachelor, I said, I want to do all my research about this, but of course we can't just stay in one area, we need to explore more. But I truly love what he did back in the days with IBM workers, and still in the textbooks you can see that we are teaching this to the students. We are still talking about how Hofstede cultural dimensions actually affect. So I said, let me see what he said about these three countries and look at the similarities. We are yet so apart, but we are so similar. All of our indexes look the same. So Brazil, Spain, and Turkey. So I know that it sounds like we are all over the place, but our culture has something in common. So many things in common, actually. We all think about, okay, power distance. We talk about individualism. We all think about the future a lot. And we are also thinking about the past. We are taking risks. We love to live the life, right? I mean, luckily today there is no there is no festival passing in front of my door. Like tomorrow, 9th of October, you would be seeing a band passing in front of my door. So what I mean is that we're all, three of the countries have things in common. And that's why I think when we indulge into the communities, we're going to find very, very similar stuff. So I want to just get to the last part with this cultural sensitivity during communication, during crisis, sorry, it's crucial. We don't want to sound like the guy in the picture. We don't want to scream. We don't want to look like we're screaming to our audience. We don't want to disturb them. So that's why being sensitive is the key. So the findings that we found earlier were three main themes. What they did, they encourage people to stay home, they engage the people with non-branded content, and they put product-related content being embedded into messages. Okay, these are what they did. What are they doing now? I'm gonna come in a bit. And usually we say that Gen Z, Gen Y were there, but there's a new user on Gen X, and I talk about Louis Vuitton also. Now, let's see what they're doing at the moment. This is last week itself. And I want to show you these 4 brands. And I know that there are numbers, but I think it's gonna give a better perspective when we see this. So as you can see, none of these, Nike, Adidas, Puma, or Reebok, has a local page. This means they don't have, let's say, Nike Turkey. They don't have anything Nike Brazil, Adidas. So what they do, they have one global page. They share everything through that global page. I'm sorry, I don't recognize the lady on the picture, but probably she's a famous person. And this is the most, let's say, number-wise followed account on Instagram, Nike. And you may think that, oh, the more the merrier. Well, not necessarily, you will see in a bit. So nothing is happening already. All the content that they share is totally irrelated with, let's say, what might be passing on in Brazil, what might be passing on in West Africa, what might be passing. So therefore, the companies are now back to normal with their content. Adidas here also, they say support is for everyone. So this is one of the latest. As you can see, half of the interactions, but also they also have less followers on the internet. Puma, which I love it. Look at this beautiful image here. This, they say, maybe you can't read. Just imagine the fits you could pull off with this in ancient times. They do a series of campaign right now where they actually put all this ancient stuff, and pretty much they get a lot of interaction. As you can see, they have way less followers, but the interactions they have is way more in terms of percentage. And then we have Reebok on the right side. This is a style that matching Reebok prints available now. Very product oriented, very product pushed. So as you can see, of course, they have little in number, but very few reaction. So did you see anything that would resent you that, oh, yes, we are in Brazil, we still have COVID, we are in Turkey, we still have COVID. Do you see anything that is happening? No. And I'm searching constantly. There is no mention. since very long time. So this means that, yes, we should be back to normal, but we cannot promote the same things when one part of the world, people are still suffering, and another, here, for example, in Spain, this is perfectly okay. 90% of the population is vaccinated. Life is back to normal, but not everywhere. This is the question. So that's why my idea is to search more and more day by day to see how do they interact with their clients. So coming up with the results, with the conclusions, people will continue to use digital communication post-corona. Digital is not a choice anymore, it's a must. Those companies who thought that it would be a choice, bye-bye, it's a must. Remote, I mean, look at here, we're still remotely doing. More online needs will be risen, more online communication will be there. And our, let's say, preliminary results say that the content strategies, marketeers, advertising agencies that works actually all around the world will benefit from this multicultural approach, because our idea is to propose a framework that will work in all the places that they communicate. And the research, I mean, theory-wise, they can benefit from, they can validate this in different fields when communicating across the culture. So our idea is not to finish it. I want that somebody takes it and replicates it, do it in another way, validates, say that, no, this is not happening in my country, this framework doesn't work. So just let us see what they say. And for the future, more data, as I say. I wish that I could have 25 hours in a day to collect data, but the time is our enemy. And the concept of digital communities and the perspective of digital anthropology is going to be implemented in these 3 countries that I mentioned. And that's it from my side. Here are the references that I use. Muito obrigada. And now, if you have any questions, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Então, eu queria perguntar a Mônica e o Leonardo se eles gostariam de alguma forma, dar uma sintetizada dos principais resultados que vocês acham relevantes dessa pesquisa.
Na verdade, assim, eu diria que os resultados ainda são preliminares no sentido de que a pesquisa está em andamento, né?
Uhum.
The research is in progress, isn't it? Então, os resultados ainda são preliminares, como a Ashley mesmo salientou aí no trabalho, né? Eu acho que o esforço agora é a observação dessas marcas e das suas interações nas comunidades, para que a gente possa estabelecer e é o que a gente está investindo agora, uma análise comparativa dos movimentos, dos fluxos, das interações, né? Porque o comparativo é muito interessante, né? De você observar, as marcas são globais, né? A crise é global, mas os sentidos eles são muito revelados localmente, então é importante essa apreensão da experiência local, e eu acho que é esse investimento que ela está fazendo agora daqui para frente, né? O projeto vai caminhando assim, né? nessa discussão.
Vou fazer uma pergunta que, na verdade, é uma provocação para a Ashley. 2. Primeiro, eu vou falar em português, depois eu tento traduzir para o inglês. Em que medida? Porque nós estamos vivendo um momento de muitas críticas às mídias sociais, né? Outro dia, quer dizer, a Ashley falou do como é que nós nos sentimos diante do apagão, né, de todas as redes associadas ao Facebook, e a gente viu uma denúncia de uma das principais funcionárias do Facebook contra os impactos do Facebook, do Instagram e do WhatsApp sobre a vida das pessoas. Então, eu fico me perguntando em que medida, né, essa relação eu acho que isso está na pauta da relação dos consumidores com a comunicação. Isso não é uma coisa exclusiva de algumas pessoas, né? tem um certo cansaço das mídias sociais, eu acho que está acontecendo. Então, eu queria saber em que medida isso vai ser levado em consideração. I mean that we are in a moment where there are many critics, né, against social media.
Yes, totally.
And I would like to know if you are taking it into consideration in your research, because we about this episode with Instagram, and well, I think you understood what I said.
Yes.
And people are getting very tired of social media. So in what measure does it interfere in the relationship between consumers and the brands?
Yes.
This is one of them. The other one is that I found it strange that none of the brands, not Reebok, not Nike, not the other ones, they are using the argument of, how do you call that, the climate crisis and the necessity of using recyclable materials. Or they are, and you did not show it to us. The images I saw, I said, well, they are out of this world. What do you believe these people? This is what I would like to ask you about. Eu estava falando agora que ninguém fala de sustentabilidade, ninguém fala dos materiais, né? Em nenhuma das marcas eu percebi, pelo menos aqui, eu não faço parte dessas comunidades, mas até que ponto, né? Isso é ou não é veiculado e em que medida, porque isso também faz parte do sofrimento global. People nowadays, they are in fear what is coming in the future.
Yes.
So that's why.
Shall I answer now?
Yes.
Okay, great questions. So contradictory is that people are afraid. We are seeing documentaries about how our data is being stolen, what they are doing, especially now that they are all owned by same company, but yet the consumption doesn't decrease, it increases. It's like we are already hooked up to that social networks. So we're not, we're like, how to say, we say we know it's bad, but we're still using it. I mean, let's see how many people left their Instagram after they heard about all the things that are happening. How many people closed their Facebook? How many people is not using WhatsApp after we know that the WhatsApp is can use our communications against us? So the issue is that the brands already know that it's too late for us to say bye to these social networks. They already took us into their hands, and unfortunately, there is no alternative. Let me give you an example. Do you know that there is a search engine called DuckDuckGo? Have any one of you heard DuckDuckGo search engine? Are you using it? Perhaps one or two. I'm seeing, those are interested. It's a search engine that doesn't track you to other sites. So there's no ads, there's no tracking, you can do your search very well. So why are we not using it? Why everyone is using Google? So this is the dilemma that we are having, right? So we know that there's a better alternative, but we're already too much into the other ones that we feel that something in our life is missing. That's 6 hours. After that, the people were posting what type of stuff. So they were like, oh, when the 6 hours missing from our life. So this is the issue. That's why the brands know it very well. And I wish, I am a professor, I could say that, yes, they will disappear one day and we will be back to the traditional, but no, this is not going to happen. I've been researching about social media since I entered the master, because it's like 10 years now. And the research, it gets getting interesting more and more every day, because the people are getting more and more into it. So that is the reason I'm not afraid of losing this research perspective. But as a person, I could tell you what I did. 3 months, I cut all the social media. June, July, August. I was not using anything, nothing. You can't see me online. And you know what I realized? People who actually wanted to know how I am, they were the ones who called me. That's it. The rest disappeared from my life. All those likes and cards and everything went away. So actually, we know how alone we are once we are out of this. That's why they know that it's a way of being together although it's a virtual world, with others. It's a way of communicating, although maybe somebody who doesn't like you puts you a heart. It doesn't matter. It gives you satisfaction. So that's why the brands know it very well and they use it. And that's why the digital marketing, although there are a lot of traditional marketeers that say will die one day, it won't. It will just change its form. And we're just going to keep researching it. So this is for the first question. Did I answer it?
Yeah, well? Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. And for the second question, well, yes. I mean, the brands actually talk about recycling and so on. But again, you know how they talk? They talk, we have this shoe done by recycled material. Like Adidas, I think did it, Nike did it, maybe Leonardo, you know better. So they do it, they put it, but again, product oriented. So they want to sell that product. So if you're into climate crisis, you're going to go and you have to come and buy it because it's a recycled shoe. So this is how they do. It's not about communicating, we care about the world. Yes, no, it's about, here is the shoe. It's from recycled material. You can buy it if you care about it. So this is how they share it. And that's why people feel it, that they just use it to greenwash their practices. So they just use it.
Yes,
and they
greenwash.
Yeah, so they just take a material, recycle, and that is the shoe itself. So you buy it, we think about the climate, and that's it. And they do an event, and they bring all the charities, and yeah, so the climate.
They sell even more, and that's not good for the climate.
And the people buy it more, exactly. So that because it's a sentimental issue. When I see Adidas, oh, it's a $300 shoe, but it's recycled. Why not? Well, you earn money, yes, you contributed to the government, but to the society, to the future generations, but still, we also give you good amount of money. So that is the dilemma. That's why I don't think there are sustainable businesses a lot rising. There is a lot of true, honest companies, technology companies, even that are doing very well. But when it comes to pure business, being very innocent, I think it's a utopic world. So this is what I could say.
Oi, Ilana, antes de passar para o César, eu posso só fazer uma consideração sobre a sua primeira ponderação, né? Eu fiquei me lembrando agora dessa música do Caetano, Anjos Tronchos, que é uma... Já viu a música nova do Caetano?
Ainda acho que não.
Anjos Tronchos, que é uma crítica a tecnologia, ao Vale do Silício, a toda essa produção contemporânea, né, das mídias sociais e da economia política das redes e tudo. E, de alguma forma, quer dizer, isso é uma temática que vem atravessando todos os estudos etnográficos que a gente tem feito, os meus orientandos, os projetos com que eu dialogo na Inglaterra e os outros etnógrafos do mundo inteiro, né? Essas contradições da experiência, né? Do digital, que é imersivo, é presente na vida cotidiana, faz parte, mas ele tem uma produção muito centrada. Tem uma autora que eu gosto muito, que é a Van Dijk, José Maria Van Dijk, professora da Universidade de Amsterdã. Ela escreveu 2 livros importantes, 3, mas os 2 últimos, chama-se Uma Análise Crítica das Mídias Sociais, e o último chama-se Sociedade das Plataformas, The Platform Society. São livros muito interessantes porque discutem do ponto de vista da economia política das redes, né, as grandes contradições. Ela diz nesse último, por exemplo, que a maior parte da concentração da produção é norte-americana e muitas produções asiáticas também, né? A Europa ficou num lugar vendido, assim, sem lugar. Tem trabalhado a regulamentação, tentando trabalhar a regulamentação das redes. A América Latina está totalmente fora também da discussão, né? Num espaço que é um espaço também que tentando regulamentar, mas num espaço difícil, né? Então, assim, é uma conjuntura bastante peculiar, assim. I'm talking about the economical political issues from social media structure, you know, ugly for them now. So, isso.
Yes, and just I didn't understand what you said, but from the politic perspective, you are absolutely right. We know that there is a wave against, and I'm also against. I mean, I don't want that one person owns all of our data, but the issue is that is there anything that the other governments, Europe is doing well, yes, but what about the others? Are they doing anything to protect the people's data? Anything? Well, not much. So we just keep pressing accept.
No.
I accept cookies. I agree all the time. This is our life. So we're just in a loop. So we know, but we still consent to many things. So I don't know when we will.
The governments, they are busy spreading fake news.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
César.
Well, good night. Well, I'll keep in English. I'm talking from London. I work here in London. So I did my postdoctorate in PAC, and I run a brand here, and I use social media to the financial market. So I've got a community on LinkedIn which I run with almost 3,000 people.
Okay,
and
that is a lot.
Almost every week I beat Financial Times, New York Times, any media outlet you may want to nominate, because we are just doing the very basics. We are using what I was doing in Goiás, Ilana, when we did that project together. What I'm doing, I'm still using audiovisual techniques, photojournalism techniques, because this is what engage. If you can listen to me now, and if you can see me, it's because there are plenty of lights here. Yes. And the way I project myself to you now is all studied. Like my clients, like my colleagues, like the way we do, because this is the way we live now. This is how we relate now. This is how we sell. And this is how we get informed every day. So every day when I talk to my colleagues or my directors, all these people, what they do, the company I work for is EOS Deal Advisory, which is a rival firm for the Big Four. EOS Deal Advisory. EOS é a deusa do amanhecer.
É uma consultoria.
Yes, it's a consultancy firm, which is in Pall Mall, in the corner from Pall Mall and Cockspur Street. So in front of us, there is Trafalgar Square and all the movements. And we are just beside the Brazilian embassy. The building next, the Brazilian embassy. And so all the Extinction Rebellion, it happens in front of us. So the company, well, all the business that we do are secret, but some I can review for you. For example, we do on pharmacy, life sciences. We do big separations of big companies with mergers and acquisitions. So the company mediate this kind of, I don't know, for example, from railways to pharmacy to renewables. Now the great moment of renewables. So Ilana, all the energy and new clean ways of energy and consumer stuff, all these huge changes, but even more in the working culture. So the founders of these companies, they used to be partners at KPMG here in UK, and they left because of bullying. And what we do communicate in our LinkedIn page, our website, our podcast series, and our video series is how do we live? Can we live using all these tools to communicate? Because the Financial Times reporters, the financial news reporters, all the press, they do come to our page and they watch us as well. So what we're doing is, while we relate to each other, we rule a brand that we can do things in a very, very simple way. Photojournalism.
Exactly.
Audiovisual journalism, photo techniques, cinema. And so for what I understand, and for the studies I did in PAC, is that these are all territories that we navigate to. And if it's dangerous, and if it's that they are watching us, if we're giving them all the data, we are very aware of that, because this is the way we create communities. So when I've got more than 3,000 likes, and you do know how difficult it is for you to reach 3,000, 5,000.
That's why when you say 3,000, I say wow, because I know it's how hard.
It's almost impossible. But it's the way people feel because when I talk to people and I ask, what do you think about our page? Do you know the people? Yes, I do. They never met my colleagues. Because what I do, Ilana, for the sensation of these environmental relationships of the brand, I use images of the executives outside in the London streets. So people can relate that our executives are not like KPMG, Deloitte, or any other of the big four, which are the rival firms of the brand I've ruled. So when you walk on when you see those images, people have the impressions they've met my colleagues. They've never met. Or sometimes they mention, oh, I've seen their videos. Then they are talking about the podcast. So this sensation, this artificial presence that we can see on for example, this book right now, I'm now reading this book, which is Philosophical Studies in Image Theory, which name is Artificial Presence. Presence, yes. And translated by this one. So this artificial presence is the same artificial presence that you are experiencing now, talking to me, or imagine that you're talking to me when we are not in the same place, not even the same countries.
Exactly.
So that's what I've learned in PAC, and that's why I can now. And today I was invited to run another brand from Spain. Maybe you know, it's NAE, which is one of the biggest consultancies on telecommunications. So they want me to help them on this relationship to their clients and to their communities. Yeah. So today they invited me to help them on how they will relate to this social media stuff, which everybody hates. Nobody likes it. But this is the place, this is the environment, the territory that we relate now. So exactly. we don't meet each other. We just say happy birthday from WhatsApp. We don't even meet our friends.
Yeah, and especially from LinkedIn, probably you are receiving happy birthdays from people that you don't know because of the automated messages. And I start to conversate with them because I like to dig in now. So happy birthday, hi, how are you? Have we met? And I start.
I've never met more. If I've met like 5% of my network on LinkedIn, I don't even know who they are, but they are colleagues from newspapers all over, from Brazil, from Europe, everywhere. And they know they can find information talking to me because they're not
talking. Yes.
Vou pedir para você resumir isso em 1 minuto de fala para as pessoas que não conseguiram acompanhar o seu inglês. Bem rapidinho.
Tá muito difícil entender meu inglês?
Não é difícil
entender falando com sotaque feio assim.
Fala rápido. Fala só rápido, rapidinho.
Tá, é o seguinte, eu coordeno, eu sou diretor de comunicação de uma empresa de finanças aqui em Londres, eu moro em Londres, eu fiz pós-doutorado no PAC, sobre a supervisão da Ilana, sobre a Mostra Goiás, que é um projeto de pesquisa que eu tinha na PUC Goiás e também na UFG. Então, lá eu usava as técnicas de audiovisual, fotojornalismo, para poder falar sobre as comunidades locais. Aqui eu aplico as mesmas técnicas. Então, vocês olham nas páginas do LinkedIn da empresa que eu trabalho, você não sabe se você viu aquela foto no jornal, numa revista, ou se você viu a pessoa na televisão, ou se você ouviu no rádio. Então, isso cria uma confusão tão grande na cabeça das pessoas que elas acham que elas encontraram meus colegas. Eu pergunto assim, você acompanha a nossa página no LinkedIn, que é um sucesso para o pessoal, que é específico, é um nicho muito específico, não chega a 3.000 pessoas. Mas o que eles movem são bilhões de libras e de dólares em negócios de fusões de empresas grandes. Por exemplo, tudo que está relacionado com energias renováveis de Dubai, por exemplo. Esses dias eu treinei uma das pessoas, e é muito engraçado se eu contar para vocês as pessoas com que eu convivo aqui, é tipo fora da realidade. Esses dias eu ajudei uma pessoa a formatar o set dele, tipo esse meu agora. Estou falando com vocês, mas tudo aqui foi muito bem pensado, como eu estou iluminado, como eu estou enquadrado, como eu me projeto, daí de onde eu chego. O mais importante é como eu chego do outro lado e como eu me relaciono com o outro lado, porque toda essa presença que a gente vive nas redes sociais, ela é fictícia, ela é artificial. Nada disso é o conviver, é o tocar, eu não pego na mão de vocês. Mas, ao mesmo tempo, a gente troca várias ideias, da mesma forma como a gente trocava quando se comunicava por um artigo científico. É simplesmente formas de interação, e a gente vai precisar dessas formas digitais que são mais rápidas. Então, assim, mesmo, por mais que seja esse pessoal que é totalmente top secret, tudo é top secret, como que toda semana eu chego e eu consigo, por exemplo, 300, 90, 500 likes no LinkedIn, que assim, você conseguir um like no LinkedIn, você tem que suar sangue. A colega Ashley sabe tanto que é difícil ter 1, 2, 3, 20 likes no LinkedIn. Nossa, as pessoas não reagem no LinkedIn. E lá cria-se um envolvimento afetivo com a cidade, porque o projeto dentro... Então, assim, você pode dizer que a nossa empresa é uma empresa que tem tudo para não ser legal. E é muito legal para quem está assistindo de fora. Que é, você pega uma empresa, você vai separar uma parte, vou dar um exemplo de uma coisa aqui. A maior cadeia de distribuição de vendas aqui da Inglaterra, vending machines, sabe essas, como que fala vending machines? Essas coisas que você compra apertando o botãozinho e tal. Então, a maior rede que está em todas as estações de trem da Inglaterra comprou a segunda maior rede. Nós mediamos essa transação. Esse já é um negócio público. Esse eu posso falar. Tem outros aqui que estão acontecendo, coisas de aviação, submarino, essas coisas também. Mas então o quê? Separa ou junta duas grandes empresas. Isso faz um monte de turbulência na vida de um monte de gente. Mas quando você assiste a gente, ou quando os meus colegas, eu sou jornalista, os meus colegas do Financial Times, eles chegam mandando mensagem, eles não mandam mensagem para mim, eles falam diretamente com as minhas chefias. Eu sou assessor de imprensa. O que eu mais me orgulho é que eles não falam comigo. E toda semana, como na próxima segunda-feira, o Financial News Dow Jones vai dar matéria, considerando as minhas duas fundadoras, como entre as 100 mulheres mais influentes nas finanças na Europa. E uma das fundadoras é brasileira. Então, para a mulher brasileira, é muito importante porque elas não só conseguiram, porque as duas saíram da KPMG, que é uma das maiores consultorias do mundo, por causa de bullying. Então, elas resolveram criar uma empresa, duas mulheres, por conta delas, e hoje elas já faturam mais de 6 milhões por mês, em 2 anos. Então, eu acho assim que, sendo uma das sócias é brasileira, eu acho importante comentar isso com vocês, mas principalmente como que as mídias sociais, elas são tudo isso aí de tóxico que nós todos sabemos, mas também é o lugar onde a gente se encontra. E quando eu tenho que falar isso para um executivo de finanças, é a mesma coisa que eu falar... Vocês imaginam eu chegar num lugar onde estão os executivos, esses executivos que vocês nunca viram na vida, que ninguém vai ver, porque quando você olhar um website da KPMG, da Deloitte, ou de qualquer dessas grandes empresas que fazem esse tipo de negócio, vocês não vão ver ninguém. Vocês vão ver stock image. Vocês vão ver imagens compradas, igual o Financial Times está usando agora, porque ninguém mais tem grana para poder ter uma equipe de fotografia, que é a base do jornalismo. Então, sem a fotografia, não tem esse engajamento. Então, você pode dizer o que for, qual tecnologia que for, é texto, é imagem, é discurso. É discurso no texto e é imagem. E quando você faz... na verdade, eu me aproprio, eu não me aproprio das formas publicitárias, que estão muito usadas. Eu me aproprio da linguagem editorial. Então, quando você observa qualquer coisa na marca que eu conduzo aqui em Londres, ou na marca que eu vou passar, que hoje eu fui convidado para conduzir a marca da NAI na Espanha, que é uma das maiores empresas de consultoria e telefonia do mundo, e está lá. Então, eles são de Barcelona, eu fiz doutorado em Barcelona, então a nossa conversa foi toda em catalão, hoje de manhã. Então, a partir da semana que vem, eu cuido deles. Resumindo, é isso.
Tá bom, obrigada. Ashley, você tem comentários, porque depois tem mais uma pergunta da Arlete.
When you told me 3,000, my reaction was wow, because as you said, LinkedIn is a professional network and it's very difficult for some people to do any action over there because they think that the moment that they do something, it might affect their future employment or etc. So you getting all those interactions from the people that you don't, and in a very, I would say, more of a B2B field of work, because let's say I would be interested in a shoe brand, but maybe it would be hard for me to understand a consulting brand, right? But you're still telling that the people who are interested, although the industry or out of industry are engaging, this shows the power of these networks, and is the only, I don't want to say only way, but is one of the most important ways how the brands communicate, and it will transform itself. This is what I think, because now very recently I read that the generation Z, the ones we think that they want to receive social media only, more than half of them, they say, no, we want the physical interaction also from the company. So it is going to be a hybrid of both. So definitely online will stay, and that's where we need to focus a lot, but also the new generation will ask for this touch that they lost. And now what we will see, I hope we can live to see all of that, when the generation C, have you heard of it, the COVID generation, when this generation grow up, what is going to be their preferences? Because there is a generation that didn't know how to communicate, rather only this from the technology. So therefore, when they grow up, what are they going to ask from brands? How they want to be communicated? What is going to be their day-to-day interaction would look like? So that's why more to research for us if we still be around. So definitely, I would love to follow your brands as well. So if you share with us, maybe we will all, we will all follow. Yes, thank you so much.
So it's not 3,000, 300 and 500.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is a lot as well, because I've got only
more
my
realistic.
cases. The community is 3,000.
A community is 3,000. Okay, but still, for that's what we calculate. We don't calculate the amount that you got, but we calculate the ratio to the people that follows you with the interactions you got. So as I showed in my presentation, when you see Nike, it looks big, the number, but with the followers they have, the interaction is actually not that much when it's compared to Puma. People react to Puma more, they want to talk to Puma more, and they just, put a like maybe to Nike. So that's why when you say 3,000 and maybe 300, so this means that many of your followers want to interact with you, want to show, yes, Cesar, I just like it. I love it. So that's the most important stuff. And that's where the qualitative stuff comes in, because if you only look to the numbers, you have 300, I have 500, you have 700. Well, no, but what about the people, how they reacted, whom they share it to, what they say to the others. So these effects we need to see. Yeah.
It is funny to see.
Yeah.
Good. Arlete, você tem uma pergunta.
Sim. Posso falar? Hi, Asmi.
Hello.
Now after that, I'm very ashamed for my English, but I will try.
Your English is perfect. Go ahead.
Ashley, while you was present, you always spoken about crisis management. I was thinking that I worked with crisis management and change management for years. And what you was talking about is absolutely different for I know as crisis management.
Uh-huh.
And so I was thinking how the things change quickly today. On the other hand, in the same time, I was thinking, some days ago, I was walking in the mall and I saw a group of boys and girls talking between them without cell phone. And wow, talking, kissing, and they wanted to touch, but no, because the COVID, the pandemic. So I was thinking something is changing. Everything is changing fastly, but something is changing in the way of this teenagers, young boys and girls in relationship. So I want to know your research, why you was doing, it's changing. How do you manage this quickly of changes?
That's very, very nice question, because that is why every time we meet, I tell something different to Monica and Leonardo, because it's constant change. So I don't think that once we send it to the journal, in the meantime, maybe the response comes, they will say, sorry, but this already passed. So I'm so afraid we have to be really quick about all of this, because like I said, the social media and the behavior, and you said very nice, a subculture, teenagers, we have to study them in a different way, because their mood changes with the wind. So one day they like Justin Bieber, another day they hate Justin Bieber. One day they like Adidas, another day they hate Adidas. So how to attract them is a challenge. So whoever is targeting teenagers have a lot of work to do, because their moods change, emotions change. They see another friend doing something, they want to do it, and then they want to be different, and they, so that's why I won't deal with teenagers, especially in this research. I have so many variables that they change. I want to dig a little bit to the general public, because the teenagers is a field itself that should be studied, and that's why I wanted to constrain it a little bit. We say, okay, post and during the COVID. So this is the time constraint we have, and the sports. Because if I go to the car and all the industries, and in the beginning, that's what I thought. I'll take one car industry, I'll take the ones that strike the most in their fields, right? But I said, it's not going to happen. I need to talk in different language for each of them. I cannot say the same strategy for, let's say, a sports industry for a different industry. So that's why we put a lot of constraints, and we want to make sure that it is relevant somehow to at least for 1 year ahead. I'm not aiming for years to come, but maybe a year or 2 years, it will be still relevant. We have to, this is our challenge, who works in digital marketing, digital communication. Our research become old very quickly, because somebody comes and poof, you see, there's a new algorithm. Now I'm going to do a research. So our change of a field is a little bit tricky because of this. I wish I could just talk about Hofstede all over, but I cannot anymore. His theories are, yes, still valid, but it's not. I need to find out about other theorems, other things, because we need to see what the time show us. And that is a challenge. So we will try our best to make sure that we stay relevant, at least for the time being, with this analytics. And I think, if you allow me, I saw somebody ask about social bakers. Ilana, I think you asked, right? In the chat about social bakers.
Exactly.
Right?
Ilana asked you.
Yes,
that
yes.
You can explain a little bit more what social bakers analytic means.
Okay, so this, I'm not sure if she can hear me. I hope she can. This social bakers, actually, it's for companies. Usually the researchers, we use it, but because I told you it's quite costly for an academic to use the software, but the companies, how do they use it? Because it's a content management platform. So let's say you are a company, you are Adidas, and you want to have a whole your social network at one place, having the analytics, having the timely publishing, etc. You need a software to do that, and you can use social bakers for that. If you are a researcher, they have also researcher accounts that you can go. But what I do, I subscribe. You have 15 days of content that you can use during this time, and you can just take up to 5 to 6 profiles of publicly shared data, which means if you have a private profile, I cannot get the data from that. But since Adidas, Nike, all of that, I have the statistics of the content they share, how much interactions they do. Oh, let's see, I cannot count how many of different range of data, but all about their social media. They work with 3 social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can see what content was the most liked, the time frame. You can go up to 1 year before time. You can choose, let's say, I want to see between February 19 till February 20. And you can research about what content was there. It's a very good tool. We used it a lot actually with Leonardo. And in your classes, if you're teaching such things, you can also use it. It's very good. Students love to do analysis using that. So it's a content, let's say, software that the companies mainly use. But for research, we can get data. The only downside is aggregated data. Of course, it's not data that you collected, but it's the data that was already collected. But you can use it. You can ask them the permission and use it in your research. So yeah, this is what the social bakers. I'm gonna share the link just in a bit. Yeah. Any other questions to me? So if you have, I would love to hear.
Tem alguma pergunta a mais? Leonardo, você tem algum comentário que você queira fazer sobre o trabalho como um todo?
Sim, como a Ashley bem colocou, o trabalho ainda está em andamento, né? E como a questão da pandemia, né, ainda se estende, né, então permite que o recorte temporal seja um pouco ampliado, né? E isso pode dar por um lado, né, pode nos dar uma possibilidade de interpretação. É claro que não dá para fazer em tantos meses, mas dentro de uma perspectiva a longo prazo, né, se há uma variação de acordo também com a questão do tráfego pago, né, por essas empresas, né, porque muitas dessas empresas acabam utilizando um mecanismo de monetarização, né, para ampliar
as suas
o
comunidades.
ruído, né, dessas comunidades, né? Então, assim, existem algumas variáveis, né? Mesmo que a gente esteja trabalhando dentro de uma perspectiva multimétodo, né? A ideia é que a gente consiga fazer um desenho do modelo teórico, né? Onde se considerem essas variáveis, tantas variáveis que vêm influenciar nessa perspectiva, né? De modo, é claro, que a gente não quer fazer uma nova tese, né, de doutorado, não é esse o objetivo, mas para que fique mais, para que seja possível, né, a questão da reprodutividade do método que está sendo empregado, né? Então, essa é uma das preocupações que a gente tem, e somente agradecer mais uma vez a você, Ilana, por dar sempre esse suporte a iniciativas ousadas.
São 3h da manhã em Dubai agora.
Ah, meu Deus, a gente não aguenta, eles devem estar... Leonardo, você é um herói.
Não, tranquilo. Por uma boa discussão acadêmica, sempre vale a pena.
Gente...
Mas é isso, de uma maneira geral, a gente fica aberto também, né, Mônica, a sugestões depois, quem quiser dar alguma opinião, né, via e-mail ou até mesmo por WhatsApp, a gente está sempre aberto a receber contribuições. Acho que essa é uma das coisas mais enriquecedoras do PAC, né? Porque a gente tem pessoas de diferentes campos do conhecimento, né? E muitas vezes abrem-se novas portas que a gente não espera. Né? Então,
que bom.
Estamos aí abertos. Muito obrigado mais uma vez, Ilana. Obrigado, Mônica.
Imagina, não, eu que agradeço a sua presença aqui hoje no meio da madrugada. Isso é que dá esse programa global. Well, muito obrigada a todos que estão aqui. Thank you so much for this wonderful talk and conversation. And I hope to meet again soon.
Hopefully.
In the social media.
Yes, so I'm all over there. So me and Leo, for sure, you will see.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bom te ver,
Obrigado,
Sérgio.
boa noite a todos.
Muito bom te ver. Depois eu te mandar um e-mail.
Grande abraço.
Beijo.
Faça isso.
Grande abraço,
Tchau, tchau.
Ilana.
Obrigada,
Um abraço.
Estela.
Um abraço.
Ai, meu